Welcome back to Haunted Road Trips, where we are taking a trip across the country to find the most haunted places in your state and in mine. Today we will be looking at the state of Alabama. This is 5 of the most haunted places in Alabama. Let's go. The first stop on our road trip is Sloss Furnace in Birmingham, Alabama. This is one of the most popular paranormal hotspots in Alabama. So popular, in fact, that it has been visited by many paranormal TV shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and Scariest Places on Earth. Built in 1882, it was a steel mill. It was open for almost a century, closing in 1971. The site currently serves as a museum. Many accidents happened at the mill during its years of operation, some of which resulted in death. One accident that was more horrendous than the rest involved a man named James Wormwood, a former foreman of the graveyard shift. He led a group of over 100 workers who lived in cramped housing on the furnace site, forcing them to take dangerous risks in order to speed up production. During his reign, a total of 47 workers lost their lives, and numerous others lost their ability to work due to horrific accidents, including an explosion that left 6 blind. Well, one night, James fell 200 feet down off the catwalk into the furnace. Now, these large steel furnaces have blades that spin in rotations around the furnace at 35 rotations per minute. And once the furnace has been started, it takes a long time for it to stop. So the crewmen had to watch as their boss was rotated around the furnace, with each rotation having less and less of the man they once knew, until there was nothing left. How James Wormwood fell into the furnace in the first place is highly debated. Some say that the carbon monoxide gases coming from inside the furnace made him dizzy, to which caused him to lose his balance, while others claim that his crew deliberately pushed James inside the furnace for being a terrible boss. However it happened, one thing is known for sure: James Wormwood is still there, inside the walls of Sloss Furnace. Eyewitnesses say that the former foreman still roams back and forth on the catwalk, still keeping an eye on his dead workers. Some of the other haunted experiences you may encounter here include the feeling of people watching you, strange sounds like footsteps walking behind you, or voices that come from nowhere. Electronics have been known to malfunction, dark figures are seen moving about, and unknown presences have been reported touching and even hitting people. If you are interested in experiencing some of this for yourself, the Sloss Furnace has a haunted attraction every Halloween season called Fright Furnace. Just know that if you're gonna play with fire, you might get burned. Our second stop on our haunted road trip is a bit of a double whammy. This is the Oak Grove Plantation in Saraland, Alabama. I could not find a whole lot of history on this place. However, I did find many creepy stories. Oak Grove Plantation is said to be haunted by the apparition of a dark-skinned man who is 7 feet tall. In life, he was a bodyguard and housekeeper of the home's former resident. The ghostly man has been seen countless times standing on the porch. Here's a story from a user known as Ashley, and she says,
"As a child, I lived near the plantation. Some of our childhood friends lived in the house. It was really haunted. We would all be downstairs when the books on the bookshelf would come flying down. We have seen the tall, dark man a lot on the porch. He was the bodyguard of the lady that lived there. She and him had an affair, and she had a child from the man. They were both so scared that the lady's husband would find out. So after she had the baby, the bodyguard and the lady decided not to keep the baby. So the man took the baby to what is called Crybaby Bridge and threw it off. Or so the story goes. Nobody really knows what really happened to this day, but the man and the lady still reside at the Oak Grove Plantation to this day."
Now that story is a great segue to the second half of this place, the Crybaby Hallow Bridge, which resides just outside of the Oak Grove Plantation. The story of the Crybaby Bridge is heavily debated. Some say the baby died in a car accident, some say the baby was murdered on the bridge, like in the story before, or in numerous other ways. However, one thing is certain. There is a ghostly baby that haunts the bridge. And if you listen carefully, you can actually hear the baby's cry. Here's a story from a user named Crazy Wolf Girl, and she says,
This place is really close to my house, and one of my best friends used to own the plantation near the graveyard. We would walk down the bridge at night and think it was just a joke. One night we walked down it again and I heard a faint cry. I thought it was my friend, so I elbowed him in the arm, telling him I already knew it was fake, so why bother? He stared at me for a minute and acted like he had no idea what I was talking about. I looked at him in the eyes to see if he was lying, but what caught my attention was that he wasn't looking at me anymore. I turned around and I saw a mossy, wet, nasty looking car seat on the side of the bridge. When I walked over, I looked under the bridge to see if anyone, like some high school kids, had been trying to prank people, but no one was there. I started freaking out and looked at the woods a little to see if anything or anyone was watching and trying to get a laugh. Then the thing that scared me the most, I saw a small baby doll, almost if it had been hanged by a rope on one of the tree branches. We left and came back a week later at around the same time we had before. Nothing happened.
The only other paranormal occurrence that is reported regularly here is that people's cars will shake violently while driving over the bridge for no apparent reason. Our next stop on our road trip is the old Bryce Mental Hospital in Northport, Alabama. It was opened as an insane asylum in 1939 to solve the problem of overpopulation in the other asylums. It had a reputation for treating its patients horribly, even verging on torture. In 1970, the asylum made headlines after a journalist from the Tuscaloosa News visited the facility and reported on the horrible conditions, quoting, "Human feces were caked on the toilets and the walls. Urine soaked the aging floors. Many beds lacked linens. Patients were sleeping on the floor. One small shower served 131 male patients. The 75 female patients only had one shower as well. Many of the patients at the facility were highly tranquilized and appeared to not have bathed in days. All appeared to lack any semblance of treatment. The stench was almost unbearable." The asylum somehow remained open until 1977 and then was re-outfitted as a nursing home, but the building was completely abandoned by 2003. Visitors to this abandoned building claim to feel hot and cold spots, see items moving of their own accord, and hear ghostly sounds and footsteps. Some have even seen the tail of a doctor's coat travel through the halls. Screams, running footsteps, and unexplained creaking from the doors have also been reported. Here's an account from a user named Brandon, and he says,
"Me and a few of my buddies went here tonight, and we saw another truck coming in the trail, so we decided to follow it, but we could never find the truck. So we pulled up at the asylum and went inside. We were walking up the stairs and my friend looked at me and said, 'I don't feel right, I can't breathe.' So we got in the truck thinking it's okay, it was just mold and asbestos in the air. But when the headlights hit the front of the building, we saw 4 figures, 2 in one window on the 3rd floor, one really tall black figure that screamed at us, and one on the 1st floor. I never saw the one on the 1st floor, but according to my friends, it was there. And I've never seen or heard anything like that. I would advise do not go. This was very demonic and dangerous."
Our fourth stop on our haunted road trip, the Consolation Church in Red Level, Alabama. If every ghost story about this little church is true, then this place is one of the most haunted churches on earth. Stories range from ghostly hellhounds, wailing banshees, Confederate Army soldiers, but most terrifying of all, a haunted outhouse. This is basically the Vergas Trails of Alabama. The most common legend shared about the church is that of the banshee, whose shrieking, sobbing, and whimpering can supposedly be heard from the wooden walls of the church. These noises would signal that somebody inside the church would soon die. Another story claims that hellhounds with glowing red eyes roamed the cemetery located just in front of the church. Some graves in the cemetery date back as far as the early 1800s, several belonging to men who served in the Confederate Army. It's rumored that those who visit the church can hear the sounds of soldiers marching. Another legend has it that if somebody enters the outhouse in the graveyard, the door will shut and lock behind them, holding them prisoner until someone from the outside opens the door. Here's a first-hand account from an anonymous user.
This place is haunted. If you don't believe it, go check it out. You don't have to go at night. I was four-wheeling with some friends a few years ago and made the mistake of riding around the main building. I did not see anything, but my four-wheeler died. I had to be pushed out and down to the paved road where we waited on the truck and the trailer. We took my ATV to the shop to be checked. It fired right up. It wouldn't crank back up before then, so we loaded it up and took it home. That night I couldn't sleep from the weird dreams I was having. The next day I got on my four-wheeler and attempted to start it with no such luck. Called a tech to my house and it fired right up for him, but died when I got on it, and it was holding a steady idle. I got off and he got on, and again it fired right up, holding steady idle, as if it were brand new. I climbed on while he held the throttle and it died yet again. I then decided to tell him when it started happening and where. We both exchanged stories of the old church deep in the woods near Red Level, Alabama. As I type, I can feel the strange things watching me from the windows and across my yard. I've seen things since then too. The most recent was a pair of small girls playing near a headstone, and as I approached, they simply looked up, smiled, and disappeared.
I would say this would be a great place to visit for some frights. However, this church has suffered the same fate as the Darling Church from our last video. In 2015, the church was a victim of an arsonist, and sadly that arsonist is still at large. Our last stop on our haunted road trip is the Mountain View Hospital in Gadsden, Alabama. Opened in 2002, the hospital specializes in psychiatric therapy and is taking patients to this day. Some of the paranormal events that occur here are strange noises and shadowy masses. Now, the reason I have this on my list instead of one of the many other haunted places in Alabama is because many of the people that have visited here have the same experience. This is a comment thread starting with a user named Just a Girl, and she says,
My mother was a nurse here for many years. She would deny any rumors of hauntings up and down until one day she was watching the video from the nurse's station and saw someone walk into a patient's room while everyone was in the rec room at the time. When the patient came and requested her to unlock the bathroom, it's a psych hospital, they keep them locked for safety reasons. My mother asked who went into his room just a moment before. He replied that to his knowledge, no one had. Upon entering the patient's room, they were surprised to find the main door locked. The only person with a key was my mother. The room cannot be locked from the inside, and of course, no one was in the room or bathroom when they entered. She also said that patients would complain about someone disturbing them while in the shower in that particular room.
Another user who is known as Olivia replied with,
I was a patient there 3 times, and each time I saw something. On the 3rd floor, I was on the girls' unit, in the room at the end of the hall next to the stairwell. I would always see someone at night going in and out of the stairwell. Then I was looking in my mirror on the wall once, and there was like a black shadow standing behind me, and I turned around and no one was there.
Another user known as Nathan Tackett responded with,
My daughter was in a room somewhere in that vicinity and said the same thing, minus the mirror, of course.
That's some pretty creepy stuff. But now I want to know, have any of you visited these places? What are some of your experiences? Let us know in the comments below. Did I miss some place? Let me know that as well. And if you want me to visit your state next, comment it down below. Just leave me a comment, guys. It lets me know if you're enjoying the vids or not. You know what else lets me know if you're enjoying the vids or not? Leaving a like. Maybe even subscribing for more great content, because we do all the research so you don't have to. And as always, I'm Alex, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
And it cuts deeper than the roots of the trees that we planted in the graveyard. I don't think these scars will ever fade off. Good thing nothing seems to faze us. So numb.